just really, I'm going to just explain why we've got Joanne here and why we support FACT. And then I'm going to ask Joanne about her charity, how she's doing, because there's been lots of, problems within the charitable sector. There's lots of challenges out there, and it's how we can try and help Joanne within that sector. So just as a brief overview of how we've been trying to help FACT. So for the last 6 months, we've been trying to promote various processes and raise some money for FACT. We've been contributing directly to FACT over the last 6 months. We've also been contacting our landlords. So we've got a price-beating insurance product where if a landlord takes out this insurance, we earn a commission, which we pay directly to FACT. And we've also got an agreement with USwitch, a utility company. Again, if a tenant saves money on their utilities, any commission we earn will pay directly to FACT as well. So what we've been trying to do as a company is create this win-win situation where both our tenants and landlords save money from saving money on their insurance or their utilities, and also we donate that money directly to FACT. And really, just to explain why we've done this is, to be honest, as a business owner, owning a letting agent for the last 10 years, there's always a reason not to help a charity. You're too busy, you haven't got enough money, you haven't got time. And I decided this year was the year we were going to go out and try and help a local charity. So we met Joanne, had conversations, and it's definitely a charity I'm passionate about, because just to tell you something about my own story, my parents lost my sister to cancer when I was 18 months old. I've got lots of memories of going to parties with cancer sufferers, their parents, their families. My parents actually set up a charity in Nottinghamshire and Yorkshire called PACT, a very similar name, very similar charity, which was to provide that support to cancer sufferers and their families when they're going through this traumatic time. And it's always been something I've been fully aware of, because obviously I lost a sister who I can't really remember, but it's always been a part of our family for myself and my brother. And I've actually run the London Marathon. I raised about £4,000 to £5,000 supporting the cancer charity about 5 or 6 years ago. So this whole thing is kind of been accumulating together to try and help a cancer charity. And this is where FACT have come in with ourselves. So we've been raising money, like I say, for the last 6 months. We've raised about over £3,000. So really, it's over to you, Joanne, just to explain who you are, your story, why why you got involved in FACT, why you set up FACT, and yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, okie dokie. Well, FACT was an idea that I had as I was coming out of my own breast cancer journey. So I was diagnosed back in 2005. I was 34. My son was 7, and I was diagnosed on my daughter's 2nd birthday. So quite a momentous day in our household. Quite surreal, going back to a house full of family and friends that had gathered to celebrate Molly's birthday, and I just left the hospital with my diagnosis. I had 4.5 years of treatment, and that was, yes, a long time out of my life, but for me then and now, a long time out of my children's lives, having a poorly mum and disruption to your home, disruption to your finances, everything that comes along with the diagnosis of cancer. Thankfully, I had excellent medical care. I wouldn't be sitting here today, years and years later, had I not. But what I felt was missing at the time was that practical, emotional, outside of the clinical experience support. And so I thought I'd set up a little voluntary group to do some signposting. I really thought that all of this would be out there in the community in the Northeast, and that we'd just set up in a couple of hours a week signposting, helping people find what they needed. And that was quite early on in that, after coming up with the name and the initial voluntary group constitution, that I found that actually there wasn't a lot out there to signpost to, and had to make a choice very early on. What do we do if we can't find it? Do we tell people it's not there? Especially in the Northeast, a lot of big charities class places like Sheffield and Manchester as the North, and then they hop into Scotland. So there's a big black hole in the Northeast appeared, and I thought, well, if we can't find it, we'll just do it. I don't think I appreciated the enormity of that decision back then. I don't think I appreciate the enormity of the decision now. It just gets bigger and bigger all the time. But that's how FACT has grown into a service provider with such a large spectrum of services, because we literally do what people need us to do. It's not derived from a government paper or something like that. Yes, we tick all of the boxes as far as health and safety and ethics and all of that, but we literally do what people need us to do. And over the years, some services have been requested by lots of people. So things like counselling, your wig service, mastectomy wear, your social groups, your craft groups, Pilates, all of those things. There's lots of people will say that would be nice, and they've developed. There's other things that people just need that's very unique to their family, and we'll also help them with that. So we still, even if people are coming to groups and lots of people are accessing similar services, we still drill down to that individual, that family, because everyone is different. You know, you can have 50 lung cancers and everyone will have a different emotional, physical, financial experience. They'll have different caring responsibilities. And cancer doesn't stop your normal life. It's two journeys. You've still got your normal life. So if you're a carer and you get cancer, you're still a carer. If your car breaks down, it doesn't not break down because you've been diagnosed with cancer. Your boiler doesn't not fail because you've been diagnosed with cancer. All of these things still happen. People have multiple health conditions. You might have MS, you might have diabetes, all of these things still happen. So it's very important that cancer services are flexible to accommodate someone's whole life, not just the clinical experience. Yeah, and I think that's why FACT's grown so quickly, because we take it all on.
Yeah, I think my parents, when they obviously lost my sister, I think the one thing which people don't realise actually with cancer is it's not just the treatment. It's not just, going into hospital, getting the treatment, getting the NHS, and you come out the other side. There's an entire emotional piece. There's an entire going through this entire process, which is incredibly upsetting, incredibly scary at times.
Absolutely.
And having that support network around you is just, it's immeasurable. It's almost as big. I mean, yeah. Because I think that's why my parents ended up getting involved in this, and this is why I did, because I came down to, I always say this wrong, I came down to Swalwell. Swalwell. I've got a funny accent. So we in fact have got a base down in Swalwell, and we came to a morning event where you bring cancer sufferers, their family, people who've gone through that treatment piece, but for just a coffee morning, really, just to meet up and have a chat and really, get some interaction between these people, just so they can have a chat and really try and move on, or, help them mentally. And I found that incredibly, I suppose, powerful, or, incredibly helpful, I think, to people. And we had a look round as well, and, providing various, breast plants, if that's the right word, I'm not sure, and it was incredibly interesting. So in terms of, in terms of those support mechanisms, I know I read or I think you emailed me and you told me you were doing deliveries during this piece, or you've set up phone lines to help people. How's that working at the moment, Joanne?
Well, we've had obviously a lot of FACT services involve meeting people, typically. So we've had to think very hard and very fast, and we reacted extremely quickly at the start of all this. Thankfully, we've got some very good medical people on our trustee board and as patrons who had quite a good insight and prediction of how this would pan out. So I think even before lockdown occurred, we started changing how we were going to work, and we've set up various layers of telephone support. So we've got from befriending, just for people who are feeling isolated. We've got a helpline type reaction where it can be anything that people need. Where do I find this? How do I do that? Can I get some help with those sorts of calls? And we move into the counselling type of calls, where we've got counsellors on the telephone, and that goes right up to crisis support, and to people that literally we have identified as at risk of suicide. These, right, critical cases. I think a lot of people often just see the fluffy side of what charities do, but we do go right up to crisis support, and it was absolutely imperative that we get those services in place, because once those people couldn't come into the building, as they can't at the moment, we had to have that proper link with them to make sure that they were still well supported and looked after. So we're doing all of that on the telephone. We've also got people going out and about in the community, so we're visiting lots of people on their doorsteps. We're taking food parcels, we're taking toiletries, I've just brought in 2 pairs of trainers that somebody's requested for children where there's a financial hardship. So we've always had a scheme called kindness kits here at FACT, where we have supported people with things that they can't do or they need because of a financial impact of cancer. Well, obviously in this current situation, and as we can predict moving out of it, and that whatever world we go into, there will be a greater need for that, because of people's financial situations will be harder hit. And if you've then got a diagnosis of cancer or another illness on top of that, and you lose maybe a wage that you had, or your partner's now on part-time work and you're poorly, the need for this is going to escalate. And I think sort of saying in the early stages of this, when the country went into lockdown and shops were empty, we were delivering 300 food parcels a week.
Yeah, incredible.
And it just shows how quickly a family can go from managing to not managing over essentials like food, toilet roll, a bottle of bleach, things like patients with lowered immune systems. They want their cleaning products and things in the house. They want those sorts of things. It's not just because they're being fanciful and want to stock up on, antiseptic and disinfectant, as a lot of people in the community were. It's really important to these people that they do look after themselves when their immune system's low. So when things like that start to run out in shops and they're frightened about going out and catching germs and things because of their chemotherapy, then it is important that FACT steps in and looks after them as we would our own family. People call us the FACT family, and I think that, again, that's very special to us, because it means that we're looking after people as we would want for our own family, for our own friends. That's the benchmark of what we do.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I've certainly learned during lockdown, actually. We were chatting earlier, is it's definitely concentrated my mind on family and my relationships with my local communities, and, taking a step back and thinking how important it is. And also really, I think like all of us being in this lockdown, I'm pretty robust, I'd say, but it's been quite hard, even, mentally, to cope with, 4 walls, just this little family unit. And especially, and I haven't even got, another circumstance like fighting the cancer or a family member who's ill, to consider as well. And that's incredibly, mentally tough, I can imagine.
It is. And I think, those 2 elements of what we're doing now, I think will be really priority for FACT moving forward, because the consequences of this will go on for years, potentially decades for some people. If you look at people's mental health, a bereavement is hard enough. A bereavement at the moment where they can't be with the person, they can't say their goodbyes, they can't have family around to support them. That people are going into hospices, out of hospices, into hospital, out of hospital, passing away. Funerals are happening. You've got family members that, can't attend funerals. You've got partners that are there on their own, that are having to drive themselves to funerals, things like that. They will be long-term emotional and psychological impacts for people now. And we need to make sure that FACT comes out the other end of this as well as people, so that we can support people. We are going to be more needed than ever. And we were already extremely busy delivering over 14,500 support sessions a year, which is huge for a small local charity.
Yeah, definitely.
To increase that capacity is going to be a huge challenge to us, you know, and we do need the public and people like yourselves to support us to be able
Yeah, I mean, that's
to
what
do that.
I was saying to Joanne earlier, just before we jumped on this call, was what I certainly felt during lockdown, is I felt incredibly powerless, actually, you know, because there was lots of people doing amazing things, like, you know, nurses and doctors going into these hospitals, helping people, you know, and it was like a war where I'm sat there powerless. And, you know, obviously people like yourself are going there in communities helping people. And it's just, as a normal person, a business owner, I was definitely sat there thinking, bloody hell, you know, this isn't right here. You know, there's all these people with this incredible suffering, and it really did focus my mind anyway. And so that's why we started contributing more directly to Facts, just because, you know, I just felt it was wrong not to try and step into that hole a little bit. And I suppose the big thing, actually, which I was chatting about, the big problem, which I don't think people realise about the charitable sector, is that, you know, there's this big pandemic going on, which is incredibly awful. You know, it's dreadful, but it's sucking a lot of charitable donations into particular COVID corona charities. And also charitable givings have fallen off a cliff, such as, you know, big things which would have happened, like the Great North Run, you know, in London, the London Marathon, that raises billions for these charities, and, you know, charities like Fact. And that's really, you know, had massive consequences to charities. And it's just really, how have you found that in terms of, you know, charitable giving for your charity, Joanne?
I mean, we are traditionally, I mean, we're 12 and a half years old now as a charity, and we've been completely self-sustaining with community events, fundraising, a couple of small charity shops, those sorts of things to help us sustain ourselves, which in the past, in the normal world, that always gave us better security because we were in control of our own destiny. We weren't relying on, you know, big funds and grants and things coming in that you couldn't predict whether you'd get again. But in this climate, that has meant that literally our income has absolutely stopped. We've got no events happening. So lockdown happened the week after we were meant to have our ball. So we were already advised the week prior to lockdown not to host that as a gathering. So that was cancelled. That's our biggest fundraiser of the year. We've missed our annual dog walk, our annual wig walk, our annual run. The Great North Run, as I say, is now being cancelled. All of our little raffles and tins on shop counters, you know, all of those income streams have just stopped. And to date, we haven't had any government funding yet.
Okay.
So, you know, we've applied to pots that have been released. A lot of them are just generally oversubscribed because there will be lots of charities in our position. There's some of the government funds that you have to have a turnover of over $1 million to be able to apply for, so you don't necessarily hit that criteria. As I say, a lot of people are caught up in the emotions of the campaigns that have been featured on television. So whether that's individuals where they get mentioned on the news and all of a sudden their pot goes up and everybody jumps on that. Or you get the big charities who can afford big television campaigns, and every time you put the TV on, it's please do this, please do this, please do this, from big charities who've been able to pull these adverts together. Fact doesn't have a marketing budget. We spend every penny on looking after people, and we rely on our community networks to raise the word, either for people to come to us for support or to support us. So in a situation like this, where everybody's in lockdown, it's locked us out, if you like. So, you know, we're working incredibly hard trying to raise funds, trying to spread the word through our own social media and things without spending lots of money on it, because still the best use of every penny we get is to help somebody. So we don't want to spend lots of money on adverts and things. We want to spend it on the people who need us. And I think sort of moving forward, you know, we do need people to think about things like fundraising within their organisations, if they do it virtually, that sort of thing. We need people to sign up to donate £2 or £5 or £10 a month, so that we can develop some passive regular funding coming in and we know that it's going to be there next month, the month after, the month after. And, you know, we're just trying to sort of pull those ideas together and get them out and about and in front of more people, in the hopes that people will get behind us to keep us going for many years to come.
Yeah, so that's, you perceive that to be the route to normality, to kind of get people more to contribute on a monthly basis rather than one-off.
Yeah.
The one-off donations is kind of
Yeah.
changed a little bit now.
Yes. Yeah, I think, I mean, a one-off donation, don't get me wrong, is always fantastic, because every penny, as I say, does count, and it doesn't matter that if that's all somebody can do, then that is appreciated. But I think, you know, to be able to plan ahead and to know that you can meet your bills the next month, that you can introduce new services, we do need to start to think that if this is a different type of world that we're going to come out into, we do need people to think about supporting us. So maybe you know, it's not that necessarily people are then giving us more, they're just giving it differently. So they may have come to one of our events, they may have gone into our charity shops and bought something, or they may have clicked on a link on our social media and joined in something for a couple of pounds here and there, or sponsored a friend. But we just need them to do that differently, so that it reaches us on a more regular patterned basis and a more predictable basis for us.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, I think charities, to a certain extent, and especially a charity like yourself, have been forgotten, because I think everyone's concentrating on this pandemic, rightly so. And then the second question is economic consequences. Then people concentrate on jobs. But the gap which has always been there is these, you know, charities have always filled this gap to help people who need it most. And it's kind of like there's no press coverage on any of this. There's no help, or, you know, thought is kind of like, well, it's the economy or it's the virus, when actually, you know, charities like yourself do these great, amazing things, and you're doing it purely to help people, you know, which is far better than myself. You know, I'm in business just trying to, you know, I provide a good service to my customers. You know, I care about what I do. You know, I'm passionate about what I do, but ultimately I'm there to make money as well. Whereas, you know, charities are there to provide these services, you know, to help people who really need our help. And it's something which is just getting forgotten by people. And, you know, that's the one thing, you know, why I wanted to get you on this call, is actually just to try and get people to watch this and think about it, whether they want to give or not. It's just literally, let's start thinking about this, because we need to come out of this with society and bits of our society intact, and that's our charitable sector as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, we will be needed, as I say, more than ever coming out of this, because in general society will be struggling more. So, as I say, people who are then diagnosed or affected by cancer will find that journey even harder. There'll be less, you know, less people in work, there'll be less sort of social interaction generally. So I think they're going to need that help and support more. And I think, you know, to get the core messages out through things like this is fantastic, Nigel, because, as I say, we need a voice, we need to be heard. You know, we are getting more and more people coming to us that, and it's not people that on the street people would say, oh, well, that's somebody who might struggle. It's people who, next door neighbours, that would never know anything about it. You know, they might be living in quite a nice house in a nice area, but if then they lose their jobs and then their partner's diagnosed, there's no help and support for them. So, you know, it's people who are watching this, it's people exactly like them. There is no sort of, cancer isn't fussy. It doesn't just pick one customer base, if you like. It goes for anybody and everybody. 1 in 2 people in the country, therefore more than 1 in 2 in the northeast where we work. So it's quite a big impact.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what we're trying to do to help, I mean, just to go over it once again, we've been phoning. So during lockdown, we phoned all our landlords up just to speak to them about trying to save them some money on their insurance. You know, we were trying to get them to save some money on their insurance and obviously get some donations over to Facts. We're starting to phone our tenants up when they move in to try and get them to switch utilities. So for people watching that, and, you know, people who within the NGU group, or landlords and tenants we deal with. It's something I definitely say to people to do. If we give you the opportunity, we'll give you the opportunity to switch you to utilities if you're a tenant. Again, we'll earn no money from that. That's not something I'm looking to make money from. All of the you will save money, and all of the commission I earn is sent directly to Fact. Again, with the buildings insurance, our insurance broker will try and will price match and beat your money on your insurance. Again, don't earn a single penny from that. Any commission we get for that is sent directly to Pat. And that's really to try and, like I say, we really want to try and get behind the charity this year. And like I said, when it comes to charitable giving, there's always a reason not to do something. It's always next year will be better, the following year will be better. And so all I'm asking for our tenants and landlords to do is actually just to save them some money and do something. It's not the biggest thing in the world I'm asking. It's literally, click a link, fill in your details, take a phone call, save some money on your utilities and your insurance, and give some money to charity. And let's do some great things. We can do some great things with Facts. We can really help support a charity. And I suppose the other thing which people could do watching this is go to Fact's website. There's a direct contribution page on there, where if you feel as though that's the way you'd like to do it, or as we mentioned, a monthly contribution would be incredibly helpful, because I was chatting to Joanne there, and we were talking about the electricity bills don't stop, the telephone bills. If you're phoning up to provide some support to somebody over the phone, BT don't go, there you go, have your telephone bill for free. They go, I'll still have that money off you. So there's still costs being incurred by.
Absolutely.
And those.
All of our bills still keep coming, and as we were saying earlier, Nigel, I think a lot of people assume that charities get all of that for free. We still pay rent, we still pay electricity, we still pay legal fees, accountants' fees, and that doesn't stop. And then, as I say, the practicalities of running a service differently, there is a cost to change, and there's a cost to additional phone calls and extra fuel and paying volunteers mileage and things for dropping off food parcels and keeping our own van on the road for collecting the supplies in the first place. All of that are significant costs, and they have absolutely rocketed during this pandemic at a time where our funds have stopped.
If anybody wants to donate, then please go to Fact's website. I'll put it on an email at the bottom so people can have a look at that. And please, 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 if you can, help Fact, and let's help our charities, and let's help them survive this, because it's a crazy time we're in. But yeah, thank you.
No, and thank you to you, Nigel, and everybody that you're encouraging to support us, because, as I say, we couldn't do it without that support. So thank you so much.